Logan Pierce never thought helping a neighbor would cost him everything. When the single father discovered that someone had deliberately sabotaged the drainage system to destroy Emily Carter's home and business, he faced an impossible choice: stay silent and keep his job, or expose the truth and lose it all. What he found buried in restricted project files would shake an entire development company and force him to risk his daughter's security to save a woman he barely knew. But some battles aren't about winning. They're about what you're willing to lose for what's right. If you want to see how far this story reaches, hit that like button and drop a comment with your city. Now let's get into it. The crack appeared on Tuesday. Logan Pierce noticed it while replacing a light bulb on his back porch, a thin, jagged line running down the foundation of the house next door. Not his house. Not his problem. He stood there for a moment, bulb in hand, studying the split in the concrete like it was a puzzle he hadn't been asked to solve. The crack traced downward at an angle that made his engineer's brain itch. Foundation cracks from settling moved vertically, following the mortar lines or spreading out in predictable patterns. This one cut diagonally, starting near ground level and driving down toward the basement window like something was pushing from behind. "Dad, I can't find my purple crayon." He turned toward the voice. His daughter Mia stood in the doorway, her hair still messy from sleep, holding up a half-colored drawing of what might have been a dragon or possibly a very angry cloud. She was 6, gap-toothed, and had inherited her mother's ability to lose things in plain sight. "Check the couch cushions," Logan called back. "That's where all the lost crayons go to retire." She giggled and disappeared inside, her bare feet slapping against the hardwood floor. Logan looked at the crack again. It was small, sure, maybe a quarter-inch wide at the top, narrowing as it descended. But the way it angled toward the basement troubled him. That wasn't just settling, that was lateral pressure. The kind that came from water or shifting soil, or both. He screwed the light bulb in and went back inside, telling himself for the second time that morning that it wasn't his business. The house next door had been empty for nearly a year before someone finally bought it. Logan had watched the moving truck arrive 3 months ago, had seen the woman come and go at odd hours, hauling equipment and supplies. She drove a beat-up work truck with a magnetic sign on the door that said, "Carter Construction and Restoration." He'd waved once or twice. She'd nodded back. That was the extent of their relationship. In the kitchen, Mia had found her purple crayon wedged between 2 couch cushions, exactly where Logan said it would be. She was now coloring with intense concentration, her tongue poking out the side of her mouth the way it always did when she focused. Logan poured himself a second cup of coffee and sat down across from her. "What are you working on?" he asked. "A dragon family," she said without looking up. "This one's the dad. He's protecting everyone." Logan smiled. "What's he protecting them from?" "Bad guys. Obviously." "Obviously." She added another swirl of purple to the dragon's tail. "Miss Rhonda says I should enter the art contest at school." "Miss Rhonda's your teacher?" "Yeah, she says I'm really good at coloring inside the lines." "You are really good at that." Mia looked up, her expression serious. "Will you help me if I do it? The contest?" "Of course." She went back to coloring, satisfied. Logan watched her for a moment, then glanced out the window toward the house next door. The crack was still there, of course. Still not his problem. He finished his coffee and tried to forget about it. 2 days later, he met Emily Carter. It was a Saturday morning, and Logan was outside trimming the hedges that separated their properties, a job he'd been putting off for weeks. Mia was helping, which mostly meant she was using a stick to poke at anthills while providing running commentary on the ants' activities. "Dad, this one's the leader. He's telling everyone what to do." "How can you tell?" "He's walking in front." That's sound logic. Logan was halfway through the hedge when he heard the sound of metal striking earth, the rhythmic, frustrated thunk of someone who'd been digging for a while and wasn't happy about it. He looked over the hedge. A woman was crouched in the yard next door, stabbing a shovel into the ground with the kind of determination that said she'd been at it long enough to be personally offended by the soil. Her hair was tied back in a ponytail that had mostly given up, and there was mud streaked across her jeans and forearms. She was trying to dig a trench along the side of her house, and it was immediately clear to Logan that she had no idea what she was doing. The trench was too shallow, too narrow, and angled in the wrong direction. If her goal was to redirect water away from the foundation, she was actually making things worse. Logan watched for another minute, debating whether to say anything. He'd learned over the years that most people didn't appreciate unsolicited advice, especially from strangers. But the engineer in him couldn't let it go. He set down the hedge trimmer and walked around to her yard. "Afternoon," he said, keeping his tone light. The woman looked up, squinting against the sun. Up close, she looked younger than he'd expected. Maybe late 20s, with sharp features and eyes that assessed him quickly, cataloging whether he was worth her time. "Hey," she said. "Drainage problem?" She wiped her forehead with the back of her hand, leaving a fresh streak of dirt. "Yeah, water's been pooling near the foundation after it rains. Figured I'd try to redirect it before it gets worse." Logan nodded slowly. "Mind if I take a look?" She hesitated, and he could see the calculation happening behind her eyes. Pride versus practicality. Finally, she shrugged. "Sure, knock yourself out." He walked over, scanning the slope of her yard. The lot sat slightly lower than the properties on either side, which meant it would naturally collect runoff. But the grading was off. The subtle slope should have directed water away from the house, not toward it. Someone had either done a terrible job during construction, or something had changed since the house was built. "When did this start?" Logan asked. "About 2 months ago, right after they broke ground on the development over there." She gestured toward the row of new houses going up a few hundred feet away, beyond the tree line. The construction site was active even on weekends. Logan could hear the backup beeps of heavy machinery, the shouts of workers, the general chaos of a big project moving fast. "Figured it was just runoff from all the construction," she continued. "You know, disturbed soil, exposed dirt, that kind of thing. But it's gotten worse, not better." Logan crouched down, running his hand along the soil near her foundation. It was softer than it should have been, waterlogged, compacted in some places and loose in others. The grass was patchy, struggling to grow in the saturated ground. "You're on a slope," he said. "Water's always going to move downhill. But this," he pointed toward the new development. "This doesn't make sense. The elevation shouldn't be sending water this way." Emily leaned on her shovel, studying him. "So what are you saying?" "I'm saying someone changed the grading. On purpose or by accident, I don't know, but your yard's becoming a catch basin for everyone else's runoff." She stared at him for a long moment, trying to decide if he was full of it or actually knew what he was talking about. "Who the hell are you exactly?" "Logan Pierce. I live next door." He gestured toward his house. "Used to work in civil engineering before I went freelance." "Used to?" "Long story." Emily studied him, arms crossed now. "Emily Carter. I run a small construction company, or I'm trying to anyway." Logan stood, brushing dirt off his hands. "You've got a bigger problem than a trench is going to fix." "Yeah, well, I don't exactly have the budget for a bigger fix right now." "Then you'd better hope it doesn't rain." Emily's jaw tightened. "That's supposed to be helpful?" "It's supposed to be honest." They looked at each other for a moment, two stubborn people who didn't know each other well enough to trust, but clearly shared a mutual appreciation for bluntness. "Look," Logan said, softening slightly, "I'm not trying to scare you, but if water's pooling against your foundation, you're going to have bigger problems soon. Cracks, moisture intrusion, maybe structural damage if it goes on long enough." "I know," Emily said quietly. "I've seen the crack." "The one by the basement window?" She nodded. "How long has it been there?" 3 weeks? Maybe a month?" Logan grimaced. "It's going to get worse." "I know." There was frustration in her voice now, mixed with something else. Worry, maybe. Or fear. "I've got equipment stored in that basement. Tools, materials, paperwork for 3 active contracts. If water gets in there, I'm done." "Then we need to figure out where it's coming from." Emily raised an eyebrow. "We?" Logan realized what he'd said and almost backpedaled. But then he looked at the crack in her foundation again, at the waterlogged soil, at the trench she'd been digging that wouldn't solve anything. "Yeah," he said. "We." That night, Logan couldn't sleep. He lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, thinking about Emily's yard, about the crack, about the way the water was pooling in places it shouldn't. Around midnight, he gave up on sleep and went to his home office, a converted bedroom that was really just a desk, a filing cabinet, and a wall of bookshelves stuffed with engineering manuals he hadn't touched in years. He pulled out a notebook and started sketching. First, a rough map of the properties. His house, Emily's house, the development site beyond the trees. Then he added elevation markers based on memory and what he'd observed. The land sloped generally from north to south, but there were variations. Emily's lot sat in a natural depression, not severe, but enough to collect water if the drainage wasn't properly managed. The new development sat higher, on what used to be an undeveloped hillside. They'd cleared the trees, cut into the slope, and built a series of terraced lots. Standard practice for hillside construction. But that kind of work changed the natural water flow. Logan drew arrows showing where the water would have gone before construction, then where it would go now. The arrows all pointed toward Emily's house. He sat back, tapping his pencil against the desk. If the developers had done their job properly, they would have installed retention basins, drainage pipes, and grading that directed runoff away from existing properties. It was required by code. Every civil engineer knew it, but Logan also knew that codes were only as good as their enforcement, and enforcement depended on inspections. And inspections could be rushed or sloppy or, in the worst cases, bought. He needed to see the site plans. The next morning was Sunday. Logan made pancakes for Mia, her favorite, with chocolate chips arranged in a smiley face, and then spent an hour helping her practice her handwriting. She was learning cursive, which she found both fascinating and infuriating. "Why do the letters have to be so twisty?" she complained. "Because someone decided cursive should be fancy." "It's not fancy, it's annoying," Logan laughed. "Can't argue with that." After lunch, he told Mia he needed to run an errand. "Can I come?" she asked. "Not this time, kiddo. I'm just going to the city office to look at some boring paperwork." "That does sound boring." "Extremely boring." "Okay. Can I watch cartoons?" 1 hour? Then you need to play outside." "Deal." Logan drove to the city municipal building, a squat concrete structure that looked like it had been designed by someone who'd given up on architecture halfway through. The parking lot was mostly empty. Sunday hours meant skeleton staff and limited services. Inside, the lobby smelled like old coffee and copy machine toner. A bored clerk sat behind a plexiglass window, scrolling through her phone. "Help you?" she asked without looking up. "I need to review some site plans," Logan said. "Public records." "For what property?" "The Meadowbrook Hills development, off Ridgeview Road." The clerk finally looked up. "You a lawyer?" "No, just a citizen." She sighed like this was an unreasonable request. "Plans are in the basement archive, self-service, copy machines 10 cents a page." "Thanks." She buzzed him through a door, and Logan descended a narrow staircase into a fluorescent-lit basement that smelled like mildew and old paper. Metal shelves lined the walls, stuffed with boxes and binders and rolled blueprints that looked like they hadn't been touched in decades. It took him 40 minutes to find what he was looking for. The Meadowbrook Hills project file was thick. Hundreds of pages of surveys, grading plans, drainage calculations, environmental impact assessments, and permit applications. Logan spread everything out on a dusty table and started reading. The original plan looked solid. The developers had hired a reputable engineering firm. They designed a comprehensive drainage system with retention ponds, underground piping, and carefully calculated slopes that directed runoff toward a natural creek on the far side of the property. Emily's house wasn't even mentioned. It didn't need to be. The water wasn't supposed to go anywhere near it. But then Logan found the revision. It was buried in a supplemental filing dated 3 months after the initial approval. A single page labeled Grading Amendment 2B. Someone had changed the slope along the eastern boundary, the side facing Emily's property. Logan pulled out his phone and took a picture of the page, then zoomed in on the numbers. The original plan had graded the eastern boundary at a 2% slope, directing water northeast toward the retention basin. The revision changed it to a 4% slope, redirecting water southeast. Straight toward Emily's house. Logan sat back, staring at the document. This wasn't a mistake. You didn't accidentally double a slope. You didn't accidentally redirect an entire drainage field. Someone had done this on purpose. But why? He kept digging. The revision had been submitted by someone named Marcus Holt, listed as the site inspector. Logan didn't recognize the name. He photographed every page of the file, then went back upstairs. The clerk barely looked up when he left. Logan drove straight to Emily's house. She answered the door in paint-stained overalls, a roller in one hand. There was a streak of pale blue across her cheek. "Logan?" She looked surprised. "What's up? Can I come in? I found something." Her expression shifted. "Yeah, come on." Inside, the house was a work in progress. Drop cloths covered the furniture, painter's tape lined the baseboards, and the smell of fresh paint hung in the air. It was a small house, 2 bedrooms maybe, but she was clearly trying to make it hers. Emily led him to the kitchen table, which was covered in color swatches and contractor catalogs. Logan pulled out his phone and brought up the photos. "I went to the city archive," he said. "Pulled the site plans for the development next door." Emily leaned in, looking at the screen. "This is the original grading plan," Logan said, swiping to the first image. "See this? The eastern boundary, the side facing your house, was supposed to slope northeast. Water would have gone toward the retention basin. Nowhere near you. Okay." He swiped to the next image. "This is the revision, filed 3 months later. They changed the slope. Now it's going southeast." Emily stared at the numbers. "Toward my house." "Exactly. Why would they do that?" "I don't know yet. Could be to save money. Piping is expensive, and it's cheaper to let water run off naturally. Could be because your lot was easier to dump on than building proper infrastructure. Either way, it's not legal." Emily pulled the phone closer, studying the document. "Who approved this?" "Guy named Marcus Holt. He's listed as the site inspector." "What does that mean?" "Means he's the one who signed off on the change." Emily looked up. "Can we go after him?" Logan hesitated. "It's complicated. Inspectors have a lot of discretion. If he approved it, there's usually a reason, at least on paper. But this," he gestured at the phone, "this is enough to raise questions. So what do we do?" "We file a complaint with the city, show them the evidence, make them investigate." Emily bit her lip. "And if they don't care?" "Then we make noise until they do." She studied him for a long moment. "You really think this is going to work?" Logan didn't know. He'd seen too many cases where the little guy got crushed, where money and lawyers and bureaucratic inertia won the day. But he also knew that sitting still guaranteed failure. "I think it's worth trying," he said. Emily nodded slowly. "Okay, let's do it." They filed the complaint on Friday. Logan helped Emily draft the letter, laying out the evidence in clear, methodical terms. They attached copies of the original plan and the revision, highlighted the discrepancies, and requested a formal investigation. Emily submitted it in person at the city planning office, and the clerk stamped it received without even looking at the contents. "You'll hear back within 30 business days," the clerk said in a monotone. 30 days? Emily said. "What if my basement floods before then?" The clerk shrugged. "That's the timeline." Outside, Emily looked like she wanted to punch something. 30 days, she muttered. "By then, I could lose everything." Logan didn't have a good answer for that. The call came 3 days later. Logan was at the park with Mia, watching her navigate the monkey bars with the careful determination of someone who'd fallen off them more than once. His phone buzzed in his pocket. "Logan Pierce?" "Yeah, who's this?" "David Brennan. I'm the legal counsel for Crestwood Development." Logan straightened. Crestwood was the company building Meadowbrook Hills. "What can I do for you, Mr. Brennan?" "I'm calling regarding a complaint that was recently filed with the city. It appears you've been providing engineering consultation to Ms. Emily Carter." "That's right." "I see." Brennan's voice was smooth, professional, and carried the faint edge of someone used to getting his way. "Mr. Pierce, I want to be clear. Crestwood Development takes these allegations very seriously. We've reviewed the documents in question, and I can assure you that all work on the Meadowbrook Hills project has been completed in full compliance with city regulations." "Then why did you change the grading?" There was a pause. "Any revisions made to the project were approved through the proper channels. If Ms. Carter is experiencing drainage issues on her property, that's unfortunate, but it's not our responsibility." "Water doesn't lie," Logan said. "It's coming from your site." "Water flow is a natural occurrence, Mr. Pierce. We can't control rainfall." "But you can control where you direct it." Brennan's tone cooled. "I'd be careful about making accusations you can't prove. Ms. Carter is welcome to pursue her complaint through official channels, but I'd advise her and you to consider the costs of a prolonged legal dispute." "Is that a threat?" "It's a reality check. Crestwood has significant resources. We protect our interests vigorously. The line went dead. Logan stood there, phone in hand, watching Mia swing from bar to bar. Dad, did you see? I made it all the way across. He forced a smile. I saw, kiddo. That was great. But his mind was already racing. Crestwood wasn't going to back down. They were going to fight. And they had money, lawyers, and time. Emily had none of those things. And neither did he. But that night, Logan told Emily about the call. They were sitting on her back porch, watching the sun set over the damaged yard. Emily had her arms wrapped around her knees, her expression unreadable. So they're going to bury us in legal fees, she said quietly. That's the play. And the city? 30-day investigation timeline. If Crestwood's lawyers get involved, it could stretch longer. Emily laughed, but there was no humor in it. I don't have 30 days. I've got 3 active contracts and clients who are already getting nervous because I can't guarantee my equipment won't be underwater. Logan didn't respond. There wasn't much to say. I got another call today too, Emily continued, from the guy in the suit, the investor. What did he say? That his offer still stands, that if I wait too long, the house will lose value and he'll have to lower his price. She looked at Logan. He knew about the complaint. He knew I'd filed it. Logan's jaw tightened. How? I don't know, but he knew. They sat in silence for a while, watching the sky turn from orange to purple. I'm thinking about taking it, Emily said finally. Logan looked at her. Taking what? The offer. Selling the house. Walking away before this gets worse. You don't want to do that. I don't want to lose everything either. You won't. You don't know that. Logan didn't argue because she was right. He didn't know. He couldn't promise her that everything would work out, that justice would prevail, that the system would protect her. All he had was stubborn belief that walking away guaranteed failure. I've put everything into this place, Emily said, her voice cracking slightly. 5 years building my business. Loans I'm still paying off. This house was supposed to be my fresh start. And now some developer I've never met gets to decide whether I keep it. They don't get to decide, Logan said. You do. It doesn't feel like it. Logan understood that. He'd felt it himself more times than he wanted to count. The weight of a system that didn't care whether you survived or not. I know it doesn't, he said quietly, but you're tougher than you think. Emily looked at him. How do you know? Because you're still here. Nonsense. It rained that weekend. Not a storm, just a steady, relentless rain that lasted for 2 days straight. The kind that soaked into everything and didn't let go. Logan watched from his window as water pooled in Emily's yard, forming small lakes that crept closer to her foundation with every hour. On Sunday morning, he found Emily in her basement, moving boxes to higher shelves. How bad is it? He asked. Not flooded yet, but close. She gestured to the corner where water was seeping through the crack. I've got towels down, trying to keep it away from the equipment. Logan looked around. The basement was packed. Table saws, scaffolding, buckets of supplies, stacks of lumber. Everything she needed to run her business. You can't keep doing this, he said. I know. Let me help. They spent the next 3 hours moving her equipment to Logan's garage. It was a tight fit, and Mia was fascinated by all the tools, asking questions about every piece. What's this one do? That's a miter saw. It cuts wood at angles. Can I try it? Absolutely not. By the time they finished, Emily's basement was nearly empty, except for the things that couldn't be moved. She stood in the doorway looking at the bare space. Thank you, she said quietly. Don't mention it. No, I mean it. You didn't have to do this. Logan shrugged. What else was I going to do? Let your stuff get ruined? Emily smiled, small but real. Most people would. Then most people are assholes. She laughed, surprised. They stood there for a moment. 2 people who'd been strangers a few weeks ago, now bound together by circumstance and stubbornness. We're going to figure this out, Logan said. Emily nodded. Yeah, we are. The breakthrough came on a Thursday, 2 weeks after they'd filed the complaint. Logan was going through inspection logs, a tedious process of cross-referencing dates, names, and project numbers, when he noticed something odd. Marcus Holt, the inspector who'd signed off on the grading revision, had worked on 3 other projects in the area. All of them had resulted in complaints from neighboring properties about drainage issues. Logan pulled up the details on each complaint. One had been settled quietly with a cash payout. Another had been dismissed for lack of evidence. The third was still pending, buried in bureaucratic limbo. But the pattern was clear. Logan dug deeper, tracking Holt's employment history. He'd worked for the city's planning department for 6 years. Then, 6 months ago, he'd left to start his own consulting firm. Logan found the firm's website. It was bare bones, just a contact form and a list of services. But buried in the About section was a client list. Crestwood Development was at the top. Logan sat back, staring at the screen. Holt had approved his own future employer's project. Then he'd left the city to work for them directly. It wasn't just a conflict of interest. It was a pipeline. Logan called Emily. "I need you to come over," he said. "Right now." 20 minutes later, Emily was sitting at Logan's kitchen table reading through the documents he'd printed. "This guy approved the grading change while he was still working for the city," she said slowly. "Then he left to work for the same company a few months later. That's the timeline. That's illegal. It's a conflict of interest at minimum. Whether it's criminal depends on what else we can prove." Emily looked up, her eyes sharp. "What do we need?" "More complaints. More victims. If we can show a pattern that Holt consistently favored Crestwood projects while he was working for the city, we can make a case that this was systematic." "Where do we find them?" Logan tapped the stack of papers. "I've got 3 other cases. We need to contact the property owners, see if they'll talk." Emily nodded. "Okay, let's do it." Okay. Over the next week, they tracked down the other complainants. The first was a retired couple whose backyard had been turned into a swamp by runoff from a Crestwood project. They'd settled for $15,000 and signed a non-disclosure agreement. "We can't talk about it," the husband said over the phone. "Our lawyer made that very clear." The second was a small business owner whose parking lot flooded every time it rained. She'd filed a complaint, but it had been dismissed. "I gave up," she told Emily when they met at a coffee shop. "I couldn't afford to keep fighting, and the city made it clear they weren't interested in helping me." "Did Marcus Holt do your inspection?" Emily asked. The woman frowned. "Yeah. How did you know?" "Because he did mine too." They talked for over an hour. By the end, the woman agreed to provide a written statement. The third case was still active. A homeowner named Richard Chen who'd been fighting Crestwood for over a year. Logan called him directly. "You're going after them too?" Chen sounded both skeptical and hopeful. "Yeah. Good luck. I've been beating my head against this wall for months. They've got lawyers, money, and the city in their pocket." "What if we pool our complaints?" Logan asked. "Present them together. Show a pattern." There was a pause. "You think that would work?" "I think it's better than fighting alone." Chen agreed to meet. They gathered at Emily's house the following Saturday. Emily, Logan, Richard Chen, and the small business owner, a woman named Patricia Ruiz. Logan spread the documents across Emily's kitchen table. Grading plans, inspection reports, complaint forms, and timelines showing Holt's involvement in each case. "This is more than coincidence," Logan said, pointing at the pattern. Holt approved questionable grading changes on 4 separate projects. All of them favored Crestwood. All of them resulted in damage to neighboring properties. Then he left the city and went to work for Crestwood directly. "So what do we do with this?" Chen asked. "We file a joint complaint, not just against Crestwood, against Holt too. We show the city that this isn't about one bad project. It's about systematic negligence, maybe corruption." Patricia crossed her arms. "The city didn't care about my complaint the first time. Why would they care now?" "Because now there's 4 of us," Emily said, "and we've got proof." They talked for another hour, hammering out the details. By the end, they had a plan. They'd file a joint complaint with the city, requesting a full investigation into Holt's conduct. They'd submit all the evidence, the grading changes, the inspection reports, the timeline of Holt's employment, and if the city didn't act, they'd go public. "I know a reporter," Chen said. "She covers local government corruption. If we give her this story, she'll run with it." Logan nodded. "Then that's our backup plan." They all agreed. For the first time in weeks, Logan felt something like hope. The joint complaint was filed on Monday. By Wednesday, Logan got a call from the city planning director. Mr. Pierce, this is Director Sarah Vance. I'm calling about the complaint you and several others filed regarding the Meadowbrook Hills project. Logan put the call on speaker so Emily could hear. Yes, what about it? I wanted to let you know that we're taking this very seriously. We've opened a formal investigation into the grading approvals and Mr. Holt's conduct. Logan and Emily exchanged a look. How long will the investigation take? Logan asked. These things take time, Mr. Pierce, but I can assure you we're committed to getting to the bottom of this. That's not an answer. Vance's tone cooled slightly. We'll move as quickly as we can. In the meantime, I'd ask that you refrain from making public statements that could prejudice the investigation. We're not looking to cause trouble, Logan said. We just want the problem fixed. I understand. We'll be in touch. The line went dead. Emily looked at Logan. Do you trust her? I don't know, but at least they're listening. That night, Logan couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about the investigation, about Crestwood's lawyers, about all the ways this could still go wrong. He thought about Emily's business, about the equipment packed into his garage, about the crack in her foundation that kept getting wider. He thought about Mia, asleep down the hall, and what it would mean if he lost his freelance contracts because he'd picked this fight. Around 2 a.m, he gave up on sleep and went to the kitchen. He made coffee and sat at the table, staring at the pile of documents he'd accumulated. His phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. You should have stayed out of this. Logan stared at the message. A moment later, another one came through. People who cause problems tend to lose work. Just friendly advice. Logan's jaw tightened. He didn't respond, but he took a screenshot and saved it. This wasn't just about drainage anymore. This was war. Logan didn't tell Emily about the texts right away. He spent the next morning going through his freelance client list, making calls, following up on projects that had gone quiet. 3 clients didn't answer. 2 others were polite but evasive, saying they'd circle back when they had more clarity on their budgets. One was direct. Look, Logan, you're good at what you do, but I heard you're in some kind of dispute with Crestwood Development. We do a lot of work with them. I can't afford to pick sides. This isn't about sides. It's about drainage code violations. I'm sure it is, but I've got to protect my business. The line went dead. Logan sat there, staring at his phone. 4 contracts down, maybe more coming. He thought about Mia's school tuition, about the mortgage, about the savings account that wasn't nearly as healthy as it should be. Then he thought about Emily's basement filling with water, about Richard Chen fighting alone for a year, about Patricia Ruiz giving up because the system had crushed her. He forwarded the threatening text to Emily. Her response came 30 seconds later. We need to talk, now. Well, she was waiting on her front porch when he arrived, arms crossed, jaw tight. Someone's threatening you? She said before he even reached the steps. It's just intimidation. Happens in cases like this. Cases like this? Logan, this isn't a case. This is my life. Your life. And now someone's threatening you because you helped me? I'm fine. You're losing clients. Logan stopped. How did you know that? Because I'm losing them too. 2 contracts pulled this morning. One guy actually apologized, said his business partner has ties to Crestwood, and he can't risk the relationship. They stood there in the morning sun, the weight of what they'd started settling over them like fog. We could still walk away, Emily said quietly. Drop the complaint, let the investigation die, get back to our lives. Logan looked at her. Is that what you want? I want to not lose everything I've built. Then we don't walk away, even if it costs you your business? Logan thought about that, really thought about it. The smart play was obvious. Apologize to Crestwood, withdraw the complaint, rebuild his client base. He had Mia to think about, responsibilities that went beyond principle. But he also knew what would happen if they quit. Emily would sell her house at a loss. Richard Chen would keep fighting alone until he ran out of money. Patricia Ruiz would watch her parking lot flood every spring, and Crestwood would do it again to someone else. Yeah, he said, even if it costs me. Emily studied his face. You're either the most stubborn person I've ever met or the most stupid. Probably both. She almost smiled. Then her phone rang. She glanced at the screen and her expression changed. It's Director Vance. Logan moved closer as Emily answered, putting it on speaker. Ms. Carter, this is Sarah Vance from City Planning. I wanted to update you on the investigation. That was fast. We've completed our preliminary review of the complaints and the documentation you provided. I have to say the evidence is concerning. Emily's eyes met Logan's. Concerning how? We found irregularities in several of Mr. Holt's inspection reports. Discrepancies between the approved plans and what was actually built. We're expanding the investigation to include all projects he signed off on during his tenure with the city. What does that mean for us? Emily asked. It means we're taking this seriously. We've scheduled a hearing for next Tuesday. You, Mr. Pierce, and the other complainants will have an opportunity to present your case formally. Crestwood Development will be required to attend as well. Logan spoke up. Will Holt be there? We've subpoenaed his records and requested his presence, yes. And if he doesn't show? Then we'll proceed without him. But Mr. Pierce, I want to be clear. This hearing is fact-finding, not a trial. Our goal is to determine whether code violations occurred and what remediation is necessary. We understand, Emily said. Good. You'll receive formal notification by end of day. I'd recommend bringing any additional evidence you have. The call ended. Emily sat down on the porch steps. This is really happening. Yeah. What if we lose? Then we lose. But at least we tried. Emily looked up at him. You know that's not actually comforting, right? I'm not good at comforting. I've noticed. The next 3 days were a blur. Logan and Emily worked late into the nights, organizing documents, preparing presentations, coordinating with Richard Chen and Patricia Ruiz. They built a timeline showing every project Holt had inspected, every complaint that followed, every grading change that benefited Crestwood. Mia helped sometimes, handing Logan papers or asking questions that forced him to explain things simply, which actually helped clarify his thinking. So the bad guy changed the rules to help his friends? She asked one evening. Something like that. That's cheating. Yes, it is. Is he going to get in trouble? Logan looked at his daughter, at her complete faith that justice would prevail, that people who broke the rules would face consequences. I hope so, kiddo. On Sunday, Richard Chen came over with a laptop and a projector he'd borrowed from his office. They set it up in Emily's living room and ran through the presentation 3 times, timing it, smoothing the rough edges, anticipating questions. Patricia couldn't stay. She had to work, but she sent her written statement and photos of her flooded parking lot. This is good, Chen said after the 3rd run-through. We've got them. We've got evidence, Logan corrected. Whether that's enough depends on who's listening. Emily was pacing now, burning off nervous energy. What's Crestwood's play here? Do they just deny everything? Probably, and they'll blame Holt. Say he went rogue, that they trusted his inspections, that they had no idea anything was wrong. Will that work? Depends on how much documentation Holt kept. If he was smart, he covered his tracks. If he was lazy or arrogant, there'll be a trail. Chen closed his laptop. Either way, we've done what we can. The rest is up to the city. They agreed to meet at the municipal building an hour before the hearing. Chen left. Logan started packing up the projector. Emily stood at the window, looking out at her yard. The rain had stopped days ago, but the damage was still visible. Patchy grass, eroded soil, the persistent wet spots that never quite dried. Logan? Yeah? Thank you for all of this. I know it's cost you. We're not done yet. I know, but still, thank you. Logan didn't know what to say to that, so he just nodded and finished packing up. Monday night, Logan couldn't sleep again. He lay in bed, running through the presentation in his head, anticipating objections, rehearsing responses. At some point, he gave up and went to check on Mia. She was asleep, her stuffed rabbit clutched under one arm, her face peaceful in the way only kids could manage. Logan stood in the doorway, watching her breathe. Tomorrow could change everything. If the hearing went well, Emily's house would be saved. The drainage would get fixed. Maybe Holt would face consequences. Maybe Logan's business would recover. If it went badly, Emily would lose her home. Logan would lose more clients. And Crestwood would walk away clean, ready to do it all again. The stakes felt too big for one person to carry. But Logan had never been good at walking away from problems, even when he should. He went back to bed and managed a few hours of restless sleep before dawn. The municipal building was already crowded when they arrived Tuesday morning. Logan spotted Richard Chen near the entrance, talking on his phone. Patricia Ruiz showed up 10 minutes later looking nervous but determined. Emily paced the hallway, checking and rechecking the folder of documents she'd brought. You okay? Logan asked. No, you? No? Good. At least we're honest. At 9:30, a clerk called them into the hearing room. It was smaller than Logan expected, more like a conference room than a courtroom, with a long table at the front where 3 city officials sat. Director Vance was in the center, flanked by 2 people Logan didn't recognize. Nameplates identified them as the city engineer and the planning commissioner. On the opposite side of the room sat Crestwood's delegation. There were 5 of them, all in expensive suits. Logan recognized David Brennan from his voice. Mid-40s, sharp-eyed, the kind of lawyer who made a living making problems disappear. Next to him sat 2 other attorneys and 2 men Logan assumed were Crestwood executives. Marcus Holt was nowhere to be seen. Director Vance called the hearing to order. This is a formal fact-finding session regarding multiple complaints filed against Crestwood Development concerning grading and drainage violations at the Meadowbrook Hills project and related properties. We'll hear from the complainants first, then Crestwood's response. Mr. Pierce, you're representing the complainants? Logan stood. Yes, ma'am. Proceed. Logan connected his laptop to the projector. The first slide appeared on the wall, a satellite image of the development site and the surrounding properties. What we're looking at, Logan began, is a pattern of systematic drainage diversion that has damaged multiple properties over the course of 18 months. This wasn't an accident, it was engineered. He clicked to the next slide. Emily's property, before and after photos showing the erosion, the pooling water, the crack in her foundation. Emily Carter's home sits directly downslope from the Meadowbrook Hills development. The original grading plan directed water away from her property, but a revision, approved by then-Inspector Marcus Holt, changed the slope and redirected water straight toward her house. Brennan leaned forward. Objection. Mr. Pierce is making assumptions about intent without evidence. This isn't a trial, Mr. Brennan, Vance said mildly. Mr. Pierce, continue. Logan clicked through more slides. Grading plans, elevation data, drainage calculations showing exactly how the water flow had changed. The revision doubled the slope along the eastern boundary. Water that should have gone to the retention basin now flows southeast. In heavy rain, Ms. Carter's yard becomes a collection point for runoff from nearly 40 homes. The result is foundation damage, soil erosion, and a basement that floods every time it rains. He paused, letting that sink in. But this isn't just about one property. The next slide showed Richard Chen's house, then Patricia Ruiz's business, then the retired couple's yard. 4 properties, 4 complaints, all tied to projects inspected by Marcus Holt, all showing the same pattern, grading changes that benefited Crestwood but damaged neighboring land. Logan brought up the timeline he'd built, showing Holt's employment with the city, the dates of his inspections, and his departure to work for Crestwood 6 months ago. Mr. Holt approved questionable changes while working for the city. Then he left to work for the same company that benefited from those approvals. That's not just poor judgment, it's a conflict of interest at minimum, possibly corruption. Brennan stood. This is speculation and character assassination. Mr. Holt conducted inspections in good faith based on the information available. If there were errors, they were unintentional. Then why isn't he here to defend himself? Emily asked sharply. Brennan turned to her. Mr. Holt is no longer employed by Crestwood. His current whereabouts are not our concern. How convenient, Emily shot back. Ms. Carter, Vance said, her tone firm but not unkind. Please let Mr. Pierce finish. Logan clicked to the final slide, a comparison of Crestwood's approved plans versus what was actually built, based on the survey work he'd done. The plans show proper drainage infrastructure. The reality shows shortcuts. Pipes that were supposed to be 12 inches are actually 8. Retention basins that were supposed to hold 50,000 gallons hold less than half that. These aren't minor discrepancies, they're code violations. He looked at Vance. We're not asking for money, we're asking for enforcement. Make Crestwood fix what they broke. Install proper drainage, repair the damage to our properties, and investigate how these violations were approved in the first place. Logan sat down. The room was quiet. Vance made notes, then looked at Brennan. Crestwood's response? Brennan stood, smooth and confident. Director Vance, members of the panel, what we've heard this morning is a collection of grievances searching for a conspiracy. Yes, Mr. Holt inspected our projects. Yes, he later joined our company. Neither of those facts proves wrongdoing. He clicked through his own presentation. engineering reports, inspection certificates, permits with official seals. Crestwood Development has complied with every regulation, filed every required document, and passed every inspection. If neighboring properties are experiencing drainage issues, that's unfortunate, but it's not our responsibility. Water flows downhill. That's geology, not negligence. Emily's hands clenched in her lap. Brennan continued, "As for Mr. Pierce's allegations of code violations, we categorically deny them. Our engineering firm, which, I should note, is one of the most respected in the region, certified that all work meets or exceeds code requirements. If Mr. Pierce disagrees, perhaps he should take that up with the state licensing board." It was a subtle threat, and everyone in the room caught it. "Furthermore," Brennan said, "we're concerned about the motives behind these complaints. Ms. Carter is a small contractor who may view this as an opportunity to extract a settlement. Mr. Pierce appears to have a history of contentious relationships with developers. We're prepared to defend ourselves vigorously against what we view as baseless accusations." He sat down, looking satisfied. Logan felt Emily tense beside him. He put a hand on her arm, a silent reminder to stay calm. Vance looked at the city engineer. "Your assessment?" The engineer, a tired-looking man in his 50s, cleared his throat. "Based on the documentation presented, there are enough discrepancies to warrant a site inspection. I'd recommend we verify the drainage infrastructure against the approved plans before making any determinations." "How long would that take?" Vance asked. "A week, maybe 2. Depends on access and weather." Vance nodded. "We'll schedule it. In the meantime, Mr. Brennan, I assume Crestwood will cooperate fully?" "Of course." "Good. This hearing is continued pending the site inspection. We'll reconvene once we have the engineer's report." She banged the gavel. Logan, Emily, Richard, and Patricia filed out into the hallway. "That's it?" Patricia said. "We just wait?" "That's how it works," Chen said grimly. "Bureaucracy moves slow." Emily looked like she wanted to punch something. "Did you hear him? He called us opportunists, said we're making it up." "That's what lawyers do," Logan said. "But Vance ordered an inspection. That means she's taking it seriously. Or it means she's stalling until we give up." Logan didn't have a good answer for that. They stood there in the hallway, 4 people who'd put everything on the line for a system that might not care. "We did good in there," Chen said finally. "The evidence is solid. If the inspection backs us up, we've got them." "And if it doesn't?" Emily asked. No one answered. Bet. The inspection happened 6 days later. Logan wasn't allowed on site. Crestwood's lawyers made sure of that. But the city engineer took photos and measurements, comparing what existed against what the plan showed. Emily called Logan every few hours for updates he didn't have. "Have you heard anything?" "Not yet. It's been 3 days." "These things take time." "I hate waiting." "I know." On the 4th day, Logan got a call from an unknown number. "Mr. Pierce, this is Marcus Holt." Logan's hand tightened on the phone. "Where the hell have you been?" "That's not important. What's important is that you're in over your head." "Am I?" "Crestwood has deep pockets and lawyers who make a living destroying people like you. You're a single dad with a struggling freelance business. How long can you afford to keep fighting?" "As long as it takes." Holt laughed, bitter and sharp. "You think you're the hero here? You're not. You're just another guy who doesn't understand how the world works." "Then educate me." "The world works like this. Developers need projects approved fast. City inspectors are overworked and underpaid. Consultants like me smooth the process. Everyone wins. Except the people whose properties get destroyed. Collateral damage. It happens." Logan's jaw tightened. "You signed off on grading changes you knew were wrong. You took a job with the company you were supposed to be regulating. That's not smoothing a process. That's corruption. Prove it." "I'm working on it." "Good luck. You're going to need it." The line went dead. Logan immediately called Vance's office and reported the conversation. Her assistant said she'd pass along the message. That night, Logan told Emily about the call. "He's scared," she said. "That's why he called. He's trying to intimidate you." "Maybe." "No, maybe. He knows we're close to something." Logan wanted to believe that, but he also knew that scared people were dangerous, especially when they had nothing left to lose. The engineer's report came back on a Monday. Vance called a follow-up hearing for Wednesday afternoon. Logan, Emily, Richard, and Patricia showed up early, nerves frayed, exhausted from days of waiting. Crestwood's team arrived exactly on time, still confident, still polished. Vance opened the session. We've completed the site inspection and reviewed the engineer's findings. I'll let him present the results. The city engineer stood, pulling up a series of photos on the projector. What we found, he began, is that the drainage infrastructure at Meadowbrook Hills does not match the approved plans in several significant ways. Logan felt Emily grab his hand. The retention basin is undersized, approximately 40% smaller than specified. Several drainage pipes are narrower than approved, and the grading along the eastern boundary exceeds the permitted slope. He clicked through more photos, showing measurements, comparisons, violations. These discrepancies violate city code in multiple areas. The current system is inadequate to handle the designed runoff, which explains the drainage issues experienced by neighboring properties. Brennan stood. These are minor deviations, well within acceptable engineering tolerances. They're not minor, the engineer said flatly, and they're not within tolerance. This is a code violation. The room went silent. Vance looked at Brennan. What's Crestwood's position? Brennan's confidence had cracked, just slightly. We rely on our contractors and inspectors to ensure compliance. If errors were made, they were made by subcontractors. Crestwood itself bears no responsibility. You're the developer, Logan said, standing. The responsibility is yours. Mr. Pierce, you're not qualified to make that determination. But the city engineer is. And he just told you it's a code violation. Vance held up a hand. Enough. Here's my decision. Crestwood Development will correct all code violations within 90 days. This includes properly sizing the retention basin, replacing undersized pipes, and regrading the eastern boundary to match the approved plans. You will also fund remediation for damaged properties, including Ms. Carter's foundation repairs. We'll appeal, Brennan said immediately. That's your right. But until the appeal is resolved, the violations stand and the corrections are required. If you don't comply, we'll halt all current and future Crestwood projects in the city. Brennan's face went hard. You're making a mistake. Then take it up with the city council. This hearing is concluded. She banged the gavel. Outside, Emily burst into tears. Not sad tears. Relief, exhaustion, victory all mixed together. Patricia hugged her. Richard Chen shook Logan's hand so hard it hurt. We did it, Emily said, laughing and crying at the same time. We actually did it. Yeah, Logan said. We did. But even as they celebrated, Logan saw Brennan and the Crestwood executives leaving through a side door, phones already to their ears. This wasn't over. Not by a long shot. The backlash started within hours. Logan's phone rang that evening, a reporter from the local paper asking for a comment on the hearing. Then another call from a different reporter. Then a blogger who covered city politics. By morning, the story was everywhere. City orders major developer to fix drainage violations. Crestwood Development faces code enforcement after complaint. Single dad takes on developer, wins. Logan hated that last headline. It made him sound like a hero, which he wasn't. He was just a guy who'd gotten pissed off enough to do something. Emily's phone rang constantly, too. Clients who'd dropped her suddenly calling back saying they'd love to work together again. She didn't bother hiding her bitterness. Now they want to hire me? Where were they 2 weeks ago? People follow winners, Logan said. It's how it works. It's garbage. Yeah, but it's useful garbage. Take the work. She did, reluctantly. But the positive press had a flip side. Crestwood filed their appeal, as promised. They also filed a defamation suit against Logan and Emily, claiming their public statements had damaged the company's reputation. Logan's lawyer, a public defender doing him a favor, was blunt. This is a slap suit. They're trying to bury you in legal costs until you give up. You could fight it, but it'll cost you everything you have. Can we win? Maybe, but you'll be broke by the time we find out. Emily's reaction was less measured. They're suing us? For what? Telling the truth? For hurting their business, Logan said. Their business was built on cheating people. Doesn't matter. They've got lawyers and money. We've got, he gestured vaguely, principles and spite. Emily sat down hard. I can't afford this. I just started getting contracts again. If I have to spend everything on lawyers, I know. They sat in silence, the weight of it crushing. Maybe we should settle, Emily said quietly. And give them what? I don't know. An apology, a retraction, whatever makes this go away. Logan understood the impulse. He felt it too. The exhaustion, the fear, the temptation to just surrender and get back to normal life. But he also knew that settling meant Crestwood won. They'd fix Emily's drainage because the city forced them to, but they'd walk away clean, ready to do it again somewhere else. Let me think about it, Logan said. Mathieu. That night, Logan got another call. This one was from Richard Chen. Have you seen the news? Which news? Marcus Holt. He's talking. Logan pulled up the article Chen sent him. The headline read, Former City Inspector Alleges Corruption in Development Approval Process. Logan's heart started pounding. The article detailed an interview with Holt, who claimed he'd been pressured by Crestwood to approve questionable changes in exchange for a promised job. He provided emails, text messages, and documentation showing a pattern of quid pro quo stretching back years. He's burning them down, Chen said, his voice tight with excitement. He's giving them everything. Logan read through the article twice, hardly believing it. Why now? He asked. Who cares? This changes everything. If Holt's evidence holds up, Crestwood's not just fighting code violations. They're fighting corruption charges. Logan felt something shift. The lawsuit, the appeal, all of it suddenly seemed less certain. I need to call Emily, he said. Already did. She's losing her mind. In a good way. Logan hung up and immediately dialed Emily. She answered on the first ring. Did you see it? Yeah. We've got them. We actually have them. Logan wanted to share her relief, but something nagged at him. Why did Holt flip? He asked. What? He called me last week, threatening me. Now he's confessing everything to a reporter. What changed? Emily was quiet for a moment. Does it matter? Yeah, it does. Because people don't confess unless they're more scared of something else. Maybe his conscience caught up with him. Or maybe someone bigger is coming after him, and he's trying to cut a deal. Emily exhaled. You're saying this might get worse before it gets better. I'm saying we need to be ready for anything. The next 2 weeks were chaos. The story exploded. More reporters dug into Crestwood's history, finding other projects, other complaints, other inspectors who'd left the city to work for developers. The state attorney general opened an investigation. Federal prosecutors started asking questions about campaign contributions and city council members who'd approved Crestwood projects. Crestwood's stock price dropped. Their CEO resigned. David Brennan stopped returning calls. And the defamation lawsuit quietly disappeared. Emily's phone rang off the hook. Not just clients now, but other people with drainage problems, foundation cracks, yards turned to swamps. They all wanted to know how she'd won. I didn't win, she told them. We just didn't lose. Logan's business recovered faster than he expected. Clients who'd dropped him suddenly remembered they needed his services. He turned most of them down, focusing instead on the handful who'd stuck with him through the fight. Mia noticed the change. You're happier, she said one night at dinner. Am I? Yeah, you smile more. You used to just look tired. Logan reached over and ruffled her hair. Well, things are better now. Because you helped Miss Emily? Because we all helped each other. Mia thought about that, then went back to her chicken nuggets, satisfied. The drainage work started in late spring. Logan watched from his yard as Crestwood's contractors tore up the development site, installing proper pipes, enlarging the retention basin, regrading the slopes. It took 3 months and cost the company nearly $2 million. Emily's foundation was repaired, her basement waterproofed, her yard properly landscaped. The crack disappeared. On the day the work was finished, she invited Logan and Mia over for dinner. It was simple: pasta, salad, garlic bread, but it felt like a celebration. Mia was fascinated by Emily's house, exploring every room, asking questions about the construction equipment still stored in the garage. Can I see the saw again? Sure, but don't touch. I won't. I just want to look. Emily smiled, watching her go. Then she turned to Logan. I couldn't have done this without you. You would have found a way. No, I wouldn't. I was ready to sell, to give up. You're the one who pushed me to fight. Logan shrugged, uncomfortable with the praise. I just did what made sense. That's what I mean. You saw a problem and fixed it. Most people don't do that. They sat there in comfortable silence, watching Mia examine the tools with intense concentration. What happens now? Emily asked. What do you mean? With us. With this. She gestured vaguely. We've been fighting together for months. Now the fight's over. Do we just go back to being neighbors? Logan hadn't thought about it. The fight had consumed everything, left no room for questions about what came after. I don't know, he said honestly. Emily nodded. Yeah, me neither. Mia came running back. Dad, Miss Emily has a table saw and a miter saw. That's like 2 saws. That's a lot of saws. Can we get saws? Absolutely not. Mia pouted, then immediately forgot about it. Can I have dessert? Did you finish your pasta? She held up her empty plate as proof. Then yes. Emily brought out ice cream, and they ate it on the back porch, watching the sun set over the yard that had nearly destroyed everything. The grass was growing back, the soil had settled, the water flowed where it was supposed to. Everything was fixed, except Logan couldn't shake the feeling that something else was just beginning. The feeling lingered through the summer. Logan tried to ignore it at first, burying himself in work. His client list had stabilized, and he'd picked up 2 new contracts, neither glamorous but steady money. Mia was out of school, which meant mornings at the community pool and afternoons trying to keep her from turning the living room into an arts and crafts disaster zone. Emily was around more too. She'd wave from her driveway when she left for job sites, sometimes stop by with extra coffee she'd accidentally made. They'd talk about nothing important, the weather, Mia's swimming progress, whether the new Thai place on Maple Street was any good, normal neighbor stuff. Except it didn't feel normal. There was something unfinished between them, a conversation they kept circling without ever landing. Logan told himself it was just the aftermath of the fight, the weird intimacy that came from going to war together. It would fade. They'd drift back to polite distance. But then she'd laugh at something Mia said, or show up with takeout when she noticed Logan's truck hadn't moved all day, and Logan would realize he didn't want distance. He just didn't know what he wanted instead. The shift started on a Saturday in July. Logan was in the garage helping Mia build a birdhouse from a kit her grandmother had sent. She was concentrating hard, tongue poking out as she hammered a nail that was definitely going in crooked. Like this? She asked. Close. Angle it a little more to the left. She adjusted, swung, and the nail sank clean. I did it. You did. Good job, kiddo. Emily's voice came from the driveway. Wow, actual carpentry. I'm impressed. Logan looked up. She was standing there in running clothes, sweaty and flushed from what looked like a long jog. It's a birdhouse kit, Logan said. The instructions have pictures. Still counts. She walked over, examining Mia's work. That's really good, Mia. Thanks. Dad says the birds won't care if it's crooked. He's right. Birds aren't picky. Mia beamed, then went back to hammering. Emily leaned against the workbench, catching her breath. You got plans tonight? Logan glanced up. No. Why? I'm grilling. Figured I owe you a real meal after all those takeout dinners. You and Mia should come over. You don't owe us anything. I know, but I'm asking anyway. Logan looked at her, really looked. She was watching him with an expression he couldn't quite read. Hopeful, maybe, or nervous. What time? He asked. 6? We'll be there. Emily smiled, something bright and genuine, and Logan felt that unfinished feeling shift into something sharper. Bull. Dinner was chaos in the best way. Emily had gone all in. Burgers, hot dogs, corn on the cob, potato salad. She'd even set up string lights in her backyard, which Mia declared magical, approximately 30 times. Can we get lights like this, Dad? Maybe for your birthday. My birthday's not till November. Then you've got something to look forward to. Emily laughed, flipping burgers on the grill. You're mean. I'm practical. Same thing. They ate outside as the sun set. Mia chattering nonstop about swim lessons and the birdhouse, and a book she was reading about dragons. Emily listened like Mia was the most fascinating person in the world, asking questions, laughing at the right moments. Logan watched them together and felt something settle in his chest, something that felt dangerously like contentment. After dinner, Mia sprawled on a blanket Emily had laid out, staring up at the darkening sky. Dad, look! I can see stars! That's because we're outside, kiddo. I know, but usually there's too many lights. These ones are really bright. Emily sat down beside Logan at the patio table, close enough that their arms almost touched. She's great, Emily said quietly. Yeah, she is. You've done a good job with her. Logan didn't know what to say to that. Parenting felt less like a job and more like controlled chaos most days, but Mia was turning out okay despite his mistakes. Her mom would have been better at it, he said. Emily looked at him. What happened, if you don't mind me asking? Logan hesitated. He didn't talk about Sarah much. It hurt less that way. Car accident, he said finally. Mia was 2. Drunk driver ran a red light. I'm sorry. Yeah, me too. They sat in silence for a moment. Mia was still stargazing, humming a song to herself. Is that why you went freelance? Emily asked. So you could be home with her? Logan nodded. I was working for a big firm, pulling 60-hour weeks. After Sarah died, I couldn't do it anymore. Mia needed me home. So I quit, started taking contract work. It's not steady, but it's flexible. That's why you didn't walk away from the fight, Emily said. Even when it cost you clients, you don't walk away from things that matter. Logan looked at her. Neither do you. I almost did. But you didn't. Emily smiled, small and a little sad. Because you wouldn't let me. Mia ran over, breathless with excitement. Miss Emily, can we make s'mores? I don't have a fire pit. We could use the grill. That's actually not a terrible idea. They spent the next hour making terrible s'mores over the cooling grill, marshmallows catching fire, chocolate melting everywhere. Mia got more on her face than in her mouth, and Emily laughed so hard she had tears in her eyes. When it was time to leave, Mia hugged Emily goodnight without being asked. Thanks for dinner and the s'mores and the lights. Anytime, sweetheart. Logan and Emily stood on the porch while Mia skipped ahead toward home. Thanks, Logan said. For tonight. She had fun. So did I. They looked at each other, and Logan felt it again, that pull, that unfinished thing. Logan, Emily. They both stopped, laughed awkwardly. You first, Logan said. Emily took a breath. I was just going to say we should do this again. Hang out. Not because of drainage or lawsuits or anything, just because. I'd like that. Yeah? Yeah. Emily's smile was something Logan wanted to see more of. Good, she said, because I like having you around, both of you. Logan wanted to say something meaningful, something that captured what he was feeling, but words had never been his strength. We like having you around too, he said. It wasn't poetry, but it was honest, and from the way Emily looked at him, it was enough. After that, things changed. Not dramatically, there was no big moment, no declaration, but the space between their houses started to feel smaller. Emily would text in the mornings to see if Logan wanted coffee. Logan would invite her over when he was grilling. Mia started asking when they could hang out with Miss Emily again, approximately every other day. It felt easy, natural, which terrified Logan. He'd been alone with Mia for 4 years. They had their routine, their rhythm. Adding someone new meant risking that balance, opening the door to complications he wasn't sure he could handle. But Emily didn't feel like a complication. She felt like something he hadn't realized he was missing. One evening in late July, Emily showed up at Logan's door holding a bottle of wine and looking nervous. Mia asleep? She asked. Out cold. Why? Because I need to talk to you, and I didn't want an audience. Logan's stomach dropped. That sounds ominous. It's not. I mean, I don't think it is. Can I come in? He stepped aside and Emily walked past him into the living room. She set the wine on the coffee table but didn't sit. Okay, she said, turning to face him. I'm just going to say this because if I don't, I'm going to lose my nerve. Logan waited, heart pounding. I like you, Emily said, more than just as a neighbor or a friend. And I hope, you feel the same way. But if I'm reading this wrong, just tell me now so I can go home and die of embarrassment in private. Logan stared at her, brain stuttering over the words. You're not reading it wrong, he said finally. Emily exhaled. Okay, good, that's good. But Her face fell. There's a but. I have Mia, and she's been through enough. If we do this and it doesn't work out, it's not just me getting hurt. It's her too. Emily nodded slowly. I get that. I do. But Logan, we've already spent months in each other's lives. Mia already cares about me. Walking away now doesn't protect her. It just teaches her that people leave. Logan hadn't thought about it that way. I'm not going to lie and say this is risk-free, Emily continued. Relationships are messy. People screw up. But I care about you, and I care about Mia, and I want to try. If you do. Logan looked at her, this stubborn, fierce woman who'd fought beside him, who made Mia laugh, who'd somehow slipped past every defense he'd built. Yeah, he said. I want to try. Emily's smile was blinding. Yeah? Yeah. She closed the distance between them, and Logan kissed her before he could overthink it. It wasn't perfect. Their noses bumped, and Emily laughed against his mouth, which made him laugh too. But it was real and warm, and exactly what Logan hadn't known he needed. When they pulled apart, Emily was grinning. That was worth the embarrassment risk. Glad you think so. She kissed him again, slower this time, and Logan let himself believe that maybe, just maybe, this could work. But they took it slow, partly because of Mia, partly because both of them were cautious by nature. They didn't broadcast the change, didn't make a big announcement. They just started spending more time together, finding excuses to be in the same space. Mia noticed, of course. Kids always did. Are you and Miss Emily boyfriend and girlfriend now? She asked one morning over cereal. Logan nearly choked on his coffee. What makes you ask that? Because she's here a lot. And you smile different when she's around. I smile different? Yeah, like happy different. Not just regular different. Logan didn't know how to argue with that. Would it bother you? If we were? Mia thought about it, chewing her cereal thoughtfully. No, I like her. She's nice, and she knows about saws. That's your criteria? Knowledge of power tools? It's important, Dad. Logan laughed, pulling her into a side hug. You're something else, kiddo. I know. That night, Logan told Emily about the conversation. She said I smile different, he said, still marveling at his daughter's perception. Do you? I don't know. Do I? Emily kissed his cheek. Yeah, you do. Mashkam. August brought new challenges. Emily landed a big contract, a full renovation on a commercial property downtown. It was the kind of job that could take her business to the next level, but it also meant long hours and constant stress. Logan helped where he could, watching Mia and Emily's house when she was on site late, bringing her dinner when she forgot to eat. But he could see the strain building. One night she showed up at his door at 10 o'clock, exhausted and frayed. The client changed the specs again, she said without preamble. Third time this week. My crew's ready to mutiny, and I'm about 2 minutes from joining them. Logan pulled her inside. Have you eaten? Does coffee count? No. He made her a sandwich and sat with her while she ate, venting about impossible deadlines and clients who didn't understand that renovation wasn't magic. I'm sorry, she said finally. I know you didn't sign up for me dumping all this on you. Actually, I'm pretty sure I did. That's kind of what this is. Emily looked at him, something soft in her expression. You're good at this. At what? Making sandwiches? At being here. At not freaking out when things get messy. Logan shrugged. Messy's kind of my baseline. You should see Mia's room. Emily laughed, and some of the tension left her shoulders. She stayed that night, falling asleep on Logan's couch, while he worked in the next room. When he checked on her later, she was curled up under the throw blanket, breathing deep and even. Logan covered her with a second blanket and went back to work, feeling that contentment settle over him again. This was what it looked like. Not perfect, not easy, just real. The cracks started showing in September. Emily's project was behind schedule, bleeding into weekends and late nights. Logan's contracts picked up too, leaving less time for the easy rhythm they'd found. They still saw each other, but the spaces between felt longer, more strained. Mia felt it too. Is Miss Emily mad at us? She asked one afternoon. No, sweetheart, she's just busy with work. But she didn't come to my swim meet. I know, she wanted to, but she couldn't get away. Mia's face scrunched up, the way it did when she was trying not to cry. Did I do something wrong? Logan's heart broke a little. No, you didn't do anything wrong. Sometimes adults just have a lot going on. But he knew it wasn't enough, and he knew Emily would hate that she'd hurt Mia, even unintentionally. That night he called her. We need to talk. Emily's voice was tight. I know. I'm sorry. I've just been slammed. Mia thinks you're mad at her. Silence. She asked if she did something wrong, Logan continued, because you missed her swim meet. I wanted to be there. The client called an emergency meeting. I know, and I get it, but Mia doesn't. She just knows you weren't there. Emily's breath hitched. I'll talk to her. I'll explain. It's not about explaining. It's about being there. I'm doing my best, Logan. I know you are. But this is what I was worried about. When work gets crazy, something has to give. And I can't let that something be Mia. Another silence, heavier this time. So what are you saying? Emily asked quietly. I'm saying we need to figure this out. Together. Because right now, it feels like we're both just trying to survive. And that's not sustainable. I don't know how to do this, Emily admitted. Balance everything. Be good at my job and good at this and not screw up. Neither do I. But we have to try. Emily was quiet for a long moment. Can I come over tomorrow? Talk to Mia? Yeah, she'd like that. And then we can figure out the rest? Yeah. We can figure out the rest. Emily showed up the next afternoon with apology cupcakes and a stuffed otter she'd bought on impulse. Mia's face lit up when she saw them. Are those for me? They are. I'm really sorry I missed your swim meet, Mia. I wanted to be there. Mia hugged the otter, then looked up at Emily. It's okay. Dad says you were working. I was, but that doesn't make it okay. You're important to me, and I should have been there. Can you come to the next one? I'll do everything I can to make it happen. Deal? Deal. They ate cupcakes on the back porch while Mia told Emily everything about the swim meet in exhaustive detail. Logan watched them, the tightness in his chest easing. After Mia went inside to play, Emily turned to Logan. I talked to my foreman today. Told him he's running the site 3 days a week so I can have a life outside of work. How'd that go? He said it's about damn time. Logan smiled. Smart guy. I can't promise I'll be perfect at this. I'm going to mess up, miss things, get overwhelmed. Yeah, me too. But I want to make it work. With you, with Mia, all of it. Logan took her hand. Then we'll figure it out. One day at a time. Emily leaned her head on his shoulder. One day at a time. I can do that. They settled into a new rhythm after that. Emily scheduled her week around Mia's swim meets and school events. Logan made a point of having dinner ready when Emily worked late. They didn't try to be perfect. They just tried to show up. And it worked. Not flawlessly. There were still missed plans and long nights and moments when the stress felt like too much. But they talked through it, adjusted, kept going. Mia thrived in the attention. She started calling Emily by her first name instead of Miss Emily, which felt like a milestone. She'd drag Emily into her games, demand she help with homework, ask her opinion on everything from what color to paint her nails to whether dragons were cooler than unicorns. Emily handled it all with a patience Logan hadn't known she possessed. One night in October, after Mia had gone to bed, Emily and Logan sat on his porch, watching the stars. I never thought I'd have this, Emily said quietly. Have what? This. A family. People who care if I show up. I spent so long building my business, proving I could make it on my own. I forgot what it felt like to be part of something. Logan laced his fingers through hers. You're part of this now, if you want to be. I do, more than I thought I would. She turned to look at him, and in the dim porch light, Logan saw everything he'd been too afraid to hope for. I love you, he said, the words surprising even him. Emily's eyes went wide. Yeah? Yeah. Her smile was tremulous, hopeful. I love you too. Logan kissed her, soft and sure, and felt the last piece of that unfinished feeling click into place. This was what came after the fight. Not an ending, but a beginning, messy and complicated and absolutely worth it. Halloween arrived with the kind of cold that promised an early winter. Mia had been planning her costume for weeks, changing her mind approximately 17 times before settling on a dragon. Emily helped her make cardboard wings, and Logan contributed a tail fashioned from an old scarf and wire. The three of them trick-or-treated together, Mia racing from house to house, while Emily and Logan trailed behind, carrying her growing stash of candy. "Next year, we're bringing a wagon," Emily said, hefting the overflowing bag. "Next year, huh?" Logan said. Emily looked at him. "Yeah, next year. And the year after that. If that's okay." More than okay. They walked in comfortable silence, watching Mia dart between houses, her wings bobbing with each step. "I've been thinking," Emily said, "about moving some of my stuff into your place. If you're ready for that." Logan's heart kicked. "Yeah? I basically live there anyway, and Mia asked me last week why I don't just stay all the time. Seemed like a fair question." Logan stopped walking, turning to face her. "You're serious?" "Dead serious, unless you're not ready, which is fine. I'm ready." Emily grinned. "Yeah?" "Yeah." Mia ran back, breathless and grinning. "Dad! Miss Emily! They're giving out full-size candy bars at the Blue House." "Full-size?" Emily said. "Lead the way." They followed Mia down the street, and Logan realized he'd never been happier. The fight had brought them together. But this quiet, ordinary joy, was what made them stay. Yet, by Thanksgiving, Emily had officially moved in. It happened gradually, a drawer here, a closet there, until one day Logan realized her stuff was everywhere, and it felt completely natural. They hosted Thanksgiving at Logan's house, which meant cooking for 12 people crammed into a dining room meant for 6. Richard Chen and his family came, along with Patricia Ruiz and her husband. Even the city engineer showed up, bringing wine and stories about the wildest code violations he'd ever seen. It was chaotic and loud and perfect. After dinner, while everyone else watched football in the living room, Logan and Emily cleaned the kitchen together. "This is nice," Emily said, elbow deep in soapy water. "Doing dishes?" "No, all of it, having people over, being part of something bigger." Logan dried a plate, considering. "You know what's weird? A year ago, I was just trying to survive. Keep Mia happy, keep work coming in, don't think too hard about the rest. And now you're stuck with me. Now I'm exactly where I want to be." Emily bumped his shoulder. "Sap, you started it." She laughed, and Logan felt it again. That bone-deep contentment he'd stopped believing in. The fight had cost them both something. Clients, money, peace of mind. But it had given them something too. Each other. And standing there in his cramped kitchen, surrounded by people who'd become family, Logan knew it was worth every bit of what they'd lost. Oh, December brought snow and the kind of cold that made even Mia complain about going outside. Emily's business was thriving. She'd finished the downtown renovation ahead of schedule and under budget, which had led to 2 more contracts. Logan's client list had grown too, enough that he was turning down work for the first time in years. They were building something, not just together, but individually too, supporting each other without losing themselves. One night, after Mia had gone to bed, Emily pulled Logan onto the couch and handed him a wrapped box. "It's not Christmas yet," he said. "I know, but I couldn't wait." Logan unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a framed photo of the 3 of them from Halloween. Mia in her dragon costume, Emily and Logan on either side, all of them grinning. "I had it printed," Emily said. "Thought it should go somewhere official, like on a wall or something." Logan stared at the photo, throat tight. "It's perfect." "Yeah?" "Yeah." He kissed her, long and slow, trying to convey everything he felt and couldn't quite put into words. When they pulled apart, Emily was smiling. "We're doing okay, aren't we?" she said. "Better than okay." "Good, because I'm not going anywhere. Neither am I." They sat there in the quiet, wrapped in each other, and Logan let himself believe in the future they were building. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't easy. But it was real. And that was more than enough. Christmas morning started with Mia jumping on the bed at 6:30, which Emily had warned Logan about the night before. "She's going to lose her mind," Emily had said, grinning as they wrapped the last present. "I remember being that age. My mom had to physically restrain me from opening gifts at midnight." Logan had laughed, but now, with a 6-year-old bouncing on his ribs, he understood the warning was insufficient. "Dad! Emily! Santa came! There's presents everywhere!" Emily groaned from her side of the bed. "What time is it?" "Present time," Mia declared. "That's not a real time," Logan mumbled. It is, today! They stumbled downstairs to find Mia already organizing gifts by size, her system known only to her. Emily started coffee, while Logan collapsed on the couch, watching his daughter's barely contained excitement. Can I open one now, please? Let Emily wake up first. I'm awake, Emily called from the kitchen. Unfortunately, they opened presents in a chaos of wrapping paper and squeals. Mia got books and art supplies and the microscope she'd been begging for. Emily gave Logan a leather-bound notebook for work sketches, and he gave her a new set of professional drafting pencils she'd mentioned wanting months ago. But the moment that stopped Logan's heart came when Mia handed Emily a lumpy package wrapped in approximately 17 layers of tape. I made it myself, Mia said, suddenly shy. Emily carefully unwrapped it to find a painted picture frame, clearly a craft project from school, with a photo inside. It was from Thanksgiving, the three of them squished together on the couch, mid-laugh about something Logan couldn't remember. Mia, this is beautiful, Emily said, her voice thick. I wanted you to have one too. So you remember we're a family now. Emily's eyes filled and she pulled Mia into a fierce hug. I could never forget that, sweetheart. Logan watched them, his chest tight with something too big for words. This was his family, imperfect and patched together, and absolutely everything he needed. Later, after Mia had crashed from sugar overload and was napping under a pile of wrapping paper, Emily found Logan in the kitchen. I have something else for you, she said, but I wanted to give it to you alone. She handed him an envelope. Inside was a single key. It's to my house, Emily said. I know we're basically living here, but I kept my place because I wasn't sure. I didn't want to assume. She took a breath. I'm selling it. The house. Not because I have to, but because I don't need it anymore. This is home. Here. With you and Mia. Logan stared at the key, understanding the weight of what she was offering. Her independence, her safety net, the place she'd fought so hard to keep. You're sure? He asked. I've never been more sure of anything. Logan pulled her close, breathing in the scent of her shampoo and the faint smell of coffee that always clung to her in the mornings. I love you, he said. I love you too. Both of you. Mia's going to lose it when she finds out you're staying for good. Emily laughed against his chest. Pretty sure she already assumed I was. Fair point. They stood there in the quiet kitchen, holding each other while Mia snored softly in the next room, and Logan let himself believe this was real, that it would last, that sometimes the good things stayed. January brought brutal cold and the kind of ice that made driving treacherous. Logan was coming back from a site visit when he got the call. Unknown number, which he almost didn't answer. Mr. Pierce, this is Detective Sarah Moss with the State Attorney General's office. I'm calling regarding the Crestwood development investigation. Logan pulled over. What about it? We've completed our review of Marcus Holt's testimony and the evidence you and the other complainants provided. I wanted to let you know we're moving forward with criminal charges against 3 Crestwood executives and 2 city officials. Logan's hands tightened on the wheel. Seriously? Wire fraud, bribery, conspiracy to defraud. It's a significant case. Your documentation was instrumental in building it. What about Holt? He's cooperating in exchange for a reduced sentence. Without his testimony, we wouldn't have had enough for prosecution. Logan didn't know what to feel. Relief, maybe. Vindication. But also something hollow, because none of this brought back the year they'd lost fighting. What happens now, he asked. Trial eventually. Could take a year or more. We may need you to testify. I'll do whatever you need. Thank you, Mr. Pierce. I'll be in touch. Logan sat in his truck for a long time after the call ended, watching the ice glitter on the windshield. They'd won. Really won. Not just the drainage fight, but the bigger battle against a system that had been rigged from the start. He called Emily. They're filing charges, he said when she answered. Criminal charges against Crestwood and the city officials. Emily was quiet for a moment. We actually did it. Yeah, we did. How do you feel? Logan thought about it. Tired, relieved, ready to move on. Me too. That night, they told Richard Chen and Patricia Ruiz over a group video call. Richard opened a beer in celebration. Patricia cried. They all agreed that whatever happened at trial, they'd already gotten what mattered, justice, and the knowledge that they'd stood up when it counted. February tested them in different ways. Mia got sick. Nothing serious, just a nasty flu that knocked her flat for a week. But it meant sleepless nights, missed work, and the particular stress that came from watching your kids suffer and being unable to fix it. Emily stepped up without being asked, taking shifts sitting with Mia so Logan could work, making soup runs, reading stories in different voices, until Mia finally fell asleep. On the fourth night, Logan found Emily asleep in the chair next to Mia's bed, a book open in her lap. He gently took the book and covered her with a blanket. Emily stirred but didn't wake. This was love, Logan realized. Not the grand gestures or perfect moments. It was showing up when things were hard and staying when it would be easier to leave. He went to his own room and slept better than he had in days. When Mia finally recovered, her first question was whether Emily was okay. "She took care of you all week," Logan said. "She's fine, just tired." "She's good at taking care of people," Mia said seriously. "Yeah, she is." "Are you going to marry her?" Logan nearly dropped the juice box he was opening. "What?" "Marry her. Like, officially. My friend Sophie says when grown-ups live together and love each other, they get married." Sophie sounds very informed. "So are you?" Logan sat down on the edge of Mia's bed. "Would you want that?" Mia considered it with the gravity of someone making a life-altering decision. "Yeah, I think so. Then she'd be my mom, right? Kind of?" Logan's throat tightened. "Kind of, if that's okay with you." "It's okay with me. I think my first mom would like her." Logan pulled Mia into a hug, blinking hard. "Yeah, kiddo. I think she would too." The idea lodged in Logan's brain and wouldn't leave. Marriage. The word felt huge and terrifying and completely right all at once. He and Emily had been together less than a year, but it felt longer. They'd been through more in those months than some couples experienced in a lifetime. They'd fought together, built something together, chosen each other over and over. But there was still the fear, the what if, the knowledge that he'd already lost one person he loved, and losing Emily would break something in him he couldn't fix. He talked to Richard Chen about it over coffee one Saturday. "You're overthinking," Chen said bluntly. "You love her. She loves you. Mia loves her. What else do you need?" "Certainty that it won't fall apart." "That doesn't exist. You can't guarantee anything, but you can decide she's worth the risk." Logan stared into his coffee. "What if I screw it up?" "Then you screw it up. You apologize, fix it, and move forward. That's marriage. It's not about being perfect. It's about not giving up when things get hard." Logan thought about that. About all the times Emily had stayed when leaving would have been easier. About the way she showed up, even when she was exhausted or stressed or overwhelmed. "I want to ask her," Logan said. "I'm just not sure how." Chen grinned. "That's the easy part. You just ask." Logan spent 2 weeks planning. He looked at rings, trying to figure out what Emily would like. Nothing too flashy. She was practical, preferred function over flair. He finally found one in a small jewelry store downtown. A simple platinum band with a small sapphire, clean lines, understated elegance. "It's perfect," the jeweler said. Logan hoped she was right. He planned to propose on Valentine's Day, which felt cliché but also appropriate. He made reservations at the restaurant where they'd had their first real date, a quiet Italian place with dim lighting and excellent pasta. But the universe had other plans. 2 days before Valentine's Day, Emily came home looking shaken. "What's wrong?" Logan asked immediately. "I got a call from my lawyer. Crestwood's filing a civil suit against me, you, Richard, Patricia, claiming our public statements damaged their business, and they're seeking compensation." Logan's stomach dropped. Can they do that? Apparently. Even with the criminal charges pending, they can still sue civilly, and their lawyer made it clear they're going for maximum damages. "How much?" $2 million each. Logan sat down hard. "That's insane, I know. My lawyer says it's a pressure tactic. They're trying to force us into a settlement or scare us into backing down from the criminal case." "Are we backing down?" Emily's jaw set. "Hell no." But Logan could see the fear in her eyes. They just started getting their lives stable. This could bury them all over again. That night they lay in bed, neither sleeping. "I'm sorry," Emily said quietly. "I brought this into your life." "No, We brought it into each other's lives, together. Still, if you'd never met me, then I'd still be alone. And Mia wouldn't have you. I'll take the lawsuit if it means keeping you. Emily turned to face him in the dark. You really mean that? Yeah, I do. She kissed him, soft and desperate. We're going to be okay, right? Yeah, we are. Logan held her until she fell asleep, then stared at the ceiling for hours, the ring box hidden in his nightstand feeling heavier than it should. Valentine's Day came anyway. Logan kept the reservation, deciding they needed one normal night. He didn't plan to propose, not with the lawsuit hanging over them, not when everything felt unstable again. But Mia had other ideas. Logan's mother had agreed to watch her for the evening, but when he went to drop her off, Mia pulled him aside. Are you going to ask her tonight? She whispered. Ask her what? To marry you. Duh. Logan blinked. How did you? I saw the ring box. In your drawer, when I was looking for batteries. Mia, you should ask her tonight. She needs something good. I heard her crying on the phone yesterday about the lawsuit. Logan's heart cracked. He'd tried to shield Mia from the stress, but kids always knew more than you thought. I don't know if tonight's the right time, kiddo. It's the perfect time. She's sad. You can make her happy. That's what you do. Logan looked at his daughter, wondering when she'd gotten so wise. You think I should? I know you should. So Logan put the ring box in his jacket pocket and drove to pick up Emily. Dinner was quiet at first. Emily was distracted, picking at her food, clearly still rattled by the lawsuit. Logan kept the conversation light, talking about Mia's latest school project and a funny thing that had happened at his site visit. After dessert, they walked along the river downtown, the city lights reflecting off the water. Thank you for tonight, Emily said. I needed this. I know. You've been stressed. Understatement of the year. They walked in silence for a bit, and Logan felt the ring box burning in his pocket. This was it. Now or never. Emily, can we stop for a second? She turned confused. Why? Logan's heart was pounding so hard he was sure she could hear it. Because I need to ask you something, and I don't want to do it while walking. Emily's eyes widened. Logan! He pulled out the box and opened it, the sapphire catching the streetlight. I had this whole speech planned, Logan said, about how you changed my life and Mia's life, and how I can't imagine the future without you. But honestly, it all comes down to this. I love you. I want to build a life with you. Not just live together, but commit to it. To us. To everything that comes with it, including lawsuits and stress and whatever else the world throws at us. Emily's hand was over her mouth, tears streaming down her face. Will you marry me? Logan asked. Yes, Emily said, her voice breaking. Yes, absolutely yes. Logan slid the ring on her finger with shaking hands, and then she was in his arms, kissing him, laughing and crying at the same time. I can't believe you did this tonight, she said. With everything going on, especially with everything going on. Mia said you needed something good. She was right. Emily laughed. Mia knows? She found the ring, told me I had to ask you tonight. Smart kid. The smartest. They stood there by the river, holding each other, and for the first time in weeks, the future didn't feel scary. It felt possible. They told Mia the next morning. She screamed so loud the neighbors probably heard, then demanded to see the ring, inspect it from every angle, and announced that she was going to be the flower girl and no one could stop her. You don't even know if there's going to be a wedding yet, Logan said. There's going to be a wedding, and I'm going to be the best flower girl ever. Emily laughed, pulling Mia into a hug. Deal. They called their families, spread the news. Logan's mother cried. Emily's dad, who Logan had met exactly once, said he'd always known Emily would find someone stubborn enough to keep up with her. Richard Chen and Patricia Ruiz sent congratulations and jokes about who'd seen it coming first. For a few days, the engagement overshadowed everything else. The lawsuit felt distant, manageable, like something they'd deal with later. But reality came back soon enough. Ikam. The civil suit moved forward. Depositions were scheduled. Lawyers asked for documentation. The legal bills started piling up again, even though their attorneys were working at reduced rates. Logan and Emily sat down one night and looked at their finances honestly. We can handle this, Emily said, though she sounded less certain than usual. We just need to be smart about it. Define smart. Don't panic, don't settle. Keep working and trust the process. Logan wanted to believe that would be enough, but he'd seen too many cases where the process crushed people who couldn't afford to fight. What if we lose? He asked. Then we lose. But we don't give up. It became their mantra over the next 2 months. They worked, saved, prepared. Emily's business stayed busy. Logan kept his contracts. They didn't plan a wedding. There was no point until the lawsuit resolved, but they talked about it sometimes. What kind of ceremony they wanted, where they'd go for a honeymoon if they could afford one. Mia kept a running list of flower girl dress options, showing them new pictures every week. Life moved forward, even as the legal battle loomed. Yes. The breakthrough came in April. Logan got a call from Detective Moss. The trial date's been set, she said, June 15th, and I wanted to give you a heads up. Crestwood's lawyers are trying to use your civil suit against you. They're arguing that you filed complaints to extort a settlement. Logan's blood went cold. That's not true. I know, but they're going to make the argument. You need to be prepared for your credibility to be attacked. What do I do? Tell the truth. Stick to the facts. Don't let them rattle you. Easy to say, harder to do. That night, Logan told Emily about the call. They're going to try to destroy us on the stand, he said. Let them try. We've got the evidence. We've got the truth. Since when is that enough? Emily took his hands. Since we decided it had to be. Logan, we didn't start this fight to win. We started it because it was right. Whatever happens in that courtroom, we can live with it as long as we know we did the right thing. Logan looked at her. This fierce, stubborn woman who'd refused to give up even when giving up made sense. How did I get so lucky? He asked. You didn't. You just paid attention when luck showed up. He kissed her, long and slow, and let himself believe her. Tabasatawaki. May passed in a blur of preparation. The lawyers walked them through potential questions, cross-examination strategies, what to expect from Crestwood's defense. Logan and Emily practiced their testimony until they could recite it in their sleep. Mia sensed the tension, but didn't fully understand it. She just knew her dad and Emily were stressed, and she responded the way kids do, by being extra good, offering help with things she couldn't actually help with, trying to make them smile. One evening, she presented them with a drawing. What's this? Emily asked. It's us. After the trial. You're happy because the bad guys lost and we're having ice cream. The drawing showed 3 stick figures with huge smiles holding ice cream cones bigger than their heads. Logan felt his throat tighten. It's perfect, kiddo. I know. I'm really good at art. She skipped away satisfied, leaving Logan and Emily staring at the drawing. We have to win, Emily said quietly. For her, we will. Logan hoped he was right. The night before the trial, Logan couldn't sleep. He lay in bed, watching Emily breathe beside him, and thought about everything that had led here, the crack in her foundation, the first time they'd fought together, the hearing, the lawsuit, the proposal. All of it felt inevitable somehow, like they'd been heading toward this moment from the start. Emily stirred, opening her eyes. Can't sleep? No. Me neither. They lay there in the dark, hands linked between them. Whatever happens tomorrow, Emily said, I want you to know I don't regret any of it. Not the fight, not the stress, none of it. Because it brought me here, to you and Mia. Same, Logan said. I'd do it all again. Even the threatening texts? Especially those, they were very motivating. Emily laughed softly. You're an idiot. Your idiot. Yeah, mine. She kissed him, and they held each other until the sun came up, ready to face whatever came next. Together. The courthouse was smaller than Logan expected. He'd imagined something imposing, all marble columns and vaulted ceilings. Instead, it was a tired municipal building with scuffed floors and fluorescent lighting that hummed too loud. Emily squeezed his hand as they walked through security, and Logan tried to ignore the way his heart was trying to punch through his ribs. Richard Chen and Patricia Ruiz were already waiting in the hallway outside the courtroom, both looking as nervous as Logan felt. Big day, Chen said, attempting a smile that didn't quite land. Yeah, Logan said. Their lawyer, a sharp woman named Karen Delacroix, who'd taken their case pro bono after the story broke, appeared from around the corner with an armful of files. "Okay, listen up," she said, gathering them into a huddle. "Crestwood's team is going to come at you hard. They'll try to paint you as opportunists, troublemakers, people who manufactured a crisis for attention or money. Don't take the bait. Answer the questions directly, stick to the facts, and don't get emotional." "Even if they're lying?" Patricia asked. "Especially if they're lying. The jury will see through it if you stay calm. If you lose your temper, you look unstable." Logan nodded, trying to absorb the advice while his brain kept screaming that this was too much, too big, too important to screw up. Emily must have sensed it because she leaned in close. "You've got this. We've got this. What if I freeze up there?" "Then you take a breath, look at me, and remember why we're doing this." The courtroom doors opened and a bailiff called them inside. The trial lasted 3 days, though it felt like 3 years. The prosecution went first, laying out the evidence methodically. Detective Moss took the stand, walking the jury through the investigation. An independent engineer testified about the code violations. Marcus Holt, looking haggard and defeated, detailed the pressure from Crestwood executives to approve changes that benefited their bottom line while endangering neighboring properties. Crestwood's lawyers tried to discredit Holt, painting him as a disgruntled ex-employee trying to save himself. But the emails and text messages were damning, showing a clear pattern of quid pro quo. Then it was the complainant's turn. Patricia went first, describing how her business had nearly failed because of constant flooding. Richard Chen detailed the damage to his property and the year he'd spent fighting alone before Logan and Emily joined him. Then they called Emily. Logan watched her walk to the stand, spine straight, jaw set. She looked small up there, but she didn't sound small when she started talking. "I bought that house with everything I had," Emily said, her voice steady. "It was supposed to be my fresh start, a place to build my business and my life, and then the water started coming, not because of weather or bad luck, but because someone changed the rules to make their job easier and didn't care who got hurt." Crestwood's lawyer, a slick man in an expensive suit named Gerald Whitmore, stood for cross-examination. "Ms. Carter, isn't it true that you filed this complaint only after you received an offer to purchase your property?" "I filed it because my foundation was cracking and my basement was flooding." "But the timing is convenient, isn't it? An investor offers to buy your struggling property, you refuse, and then suddenly you're accusing a major developer of wrongdoing." Emily's hands clenched in her lap, but her voice stayed level. "The timing wasn't convenient, it was necessary. I'd been dealing with water damage for months. When I found out it wasn't an accident, I had a responsibility to do something about it." "A responsibility or an opportunity?" "Objection," Delacroix said sharply. "Argumentative." "Sustained," the judge said. Whitmore tried a different angle. "Ms. Carter, how much did you spend fighting this complaint?" "I don't know exactly. A lot." "More than the house was worth?" "Probably." "So this wasn't about money?" "It was never about money. It was about doing what was right." Whitmore smiled, like he'd caught her in something. "That's very noble. But isn't it true that you stand to gain significantly from Crestwood being found liable? Settlement money, damages, legal fees?" Emily's jaw tightened. "If there's a settlement, it'll go toward fixing what they broke. I'm not looking to get rich. I'm looking to get my life back." Logan watched the jury. A few were nodding. Others looked skeptical. It was impossible to tell which way they'd lean. When Emily stepped down, she looked exhausted. Logan caught her hand as she passed, squeezing once. Then they called him. "Bitat." Logan had prepared for this moment, but preparation didn't stop his hands from shaking as he took the oath. Delacroix walked him through his testimony, how he'd noticed the crack, investigated the grading, discovered the revision. He explained the technical details as simply as he could, showing the jury the elevation maps and drainage calculations. Then Whitmore stood for cross-examination, and Logan felt his stomach drop. "Mr. Pierce, you worked in civil engineering for how long?" 8 years. "And then you left to go freelance. Why?" Logan hesitated. "Personal reasons." "Your wife died, correct?" "Objection," Delacroix said, rising. "Relevance?" "I'm establishing the witness's state of mind, Your Honor." The judge frowned. "I'll allow it, but get to the point, Mr. Whitmore." Whitmore turned back to Logan. "You left a stable job to freelance because your wife died and you needed to care for your daughter. That must have been financially difficult. It was manageable." manageable. Yet here we have records showing you lost several major clients around the time you filed this complaint. Clients who, coincidentally, had business relationships with Crestwood Development. Logan's jaw tightened. I lost clients because I was doing the right thing. Or because you were difficult to work with. Isn't it true that you've had disputes with other developers in the past? I've raised concerns about code violations, yes. Concerns that were dismissed as unfounded? In some cases. Whitmore smiled. So you have a pattern of making accusations against developers. And now you're engaged to Ms. Carter, one of the original complainants. Some might say you have a personal stake in seeing Crestwood punished. Logan felt his temper flare but forced it down. I have a personal stake in making sure people don't get hurt by negligence. That's all. Very noble. Tell me, Mr. Pierce, what engineering firm certified your findings? I did the analysis myself. So no independent verification? The city engineer verified it during the inspection. After you'd already filed your complaint and gotten media attention. Convenient timing, wouldn't you say? Logan wanted to argue, to explain that the timing wasn't convenient, it was just how the process worked. But he could see the trap. Anything he said would sound defensive. The facts speak for themselves, Logan said finally. Indeed they do, Whitmore said, and sat down looking satisfied. Logan stepped down feeling like he'd just lost a fight he hadn't known he was in. The closing arguments came on the third day. Delacroix went first, summarizing the evidence calmly and methodically. This case is about accountability. The defendants knowingly approved changes that violated code and damaged private property. They did it to save money and time, and they didn't care who got hurt. The evidence is clear. The testimony is consistent. Justice requires that you hold them responsible. Then Whitmore stood. Ladies and gentlemen, what you've witnessed over the past 3 days is a carefully orchestrated campaign by a group of people who saw an opportunity and seized it. Are there drainage issues in that neighborhood? Perhaps. But are they the result of criminal misconduct or simply the natural consequence of development in a hilly area? The prosecution would have you believe my clients are villains. I would suggest they're simply business people who followed the rules as they understood them and are now being scapegoated by complainants with a grudge and a financial interest in the outcome. Logan watched the jury's faces and couldn't read them at all. The judge gave final instructions, and the jury filed out to deliberate, and then there was nothing to do but wait. They waited in a conference room down the hall, unable to sit still, unable to focus on anything. Emily paced. Richard stared at his phone without seeing it. Patricia kept checking the time every 2 minutes. How long do you think they'll take? Patricia asked. Could be hours. Could be days, Delacroix said. Try not to read anything into the timing. Logan sat in the corner, head in his hands, replaying every moment of his testimony, every answer that could have been better, every question he'd fumbled. Emily sat down beside him. Stop it. Stop what? Torturing yourself. You did great up there. I let him rattle me. He rattled all of us. That's his job. But the jury saw through it. You don't know that. No, but I believe it. And you need to believe it too. Logan looked at her, this woman who'd become his anchor without him realizing it. What if we lose? Then we lose together, and we figure out what comes next. Just like that? Just like that. 4 hours later, the bailiff knocked on the door. Jury's back. Tiam. The courtroom felt different when they returned. Heavier, somehow, like the air itself was holding its breath. The jury filed in, and Logan searched their faces for clues. One woman looked sad. A man in the back row looked angry. The foreman looked tired. Has the jury reached a verdict? The judge asked. We have, Your Honor. The foreman handed a slip of paper to the bailiff, who passed it to the judge. She read it without expression, then handed it back. The defendant will rise. The Crestwood executives stood, flanked by their lawyers. On the count of wire fraud, how do you find? Guilty. Emily's hand crushed Logan's. On the count of bribery, how do you find? Guilty. On the count of conspiracy to defraud, how do you find? Guilty. The courtroom erupted. People were crying, hugging, shouting. The judge banged her gavel, calling for order, but it took several minutes before the noise died down. Logan sat frozen, unable to process what had just happened. They'd won. Actually won. Emily was crying, her face buried in his shoulder. Richard was shaking his hand so hard it hurt. Patricia was hugging Delacroix, both of them laughing through tears. Across the room, the Crestwood executives looked shell-shocked. Their lawyers were already filing papers, preparing appeals, but it didn't matter. The jury had spoken. Justice, for once, had won. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed them. Delacroix handled most of the questions, but eventually someone shoved a microphone in Logan's face. "Mr. Pierce, how does it feel to win?" Logan looked at Emily, at Richard and Patricia, at all the people who'd fought alongside them. "It feels like we did what we had to do," he said, "and I'm just glad it's over." "What's next for you?" Logan thought about Mia waiting at home with his mother, probably bouncing off the walls wanting to know what happened. He thought about the wedding they'd postponed, the life they'd put on hold. "We move forward," he said. "That's all any of us can do." The civil lawsuit dissolved within a week. Crestwood's lawyers withdrew it without comment, probably hoping to minimize further damage to their imploding company. Their CEO was facing prison time. Their stock had tanked. Several other cities had launched investigations into their projects. The empire built on shortcuts and corruption was crumbling. Logan and Emily sat on their back porch the night they got the news, watching Mia chase fireflies in the yard. "It's really over," Emily said. "Yeah. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop." "Me too." They sat in comfortable silence, and Logan realized something. The fight had changed them, not broken them, but reshaped them into something stronger. They'd learned what they were capable of when pushed. They'd learned who showed up when things got hard. And they'd learned that sometimes doing the right thing actually mattered. "Hey," Emily said, "we should set a date." "For what?" "Our wedding, genius. What else?" Logan smiled. "When were you thinking?" "September? Gives us time to plan something small, just family and friends." "Mia's going to want input on everything. I'm counting on it." Logan pulled Emily close, and they watched their daughter dart around the yard, her laughter carrying on the evening air. This was what mattered. Not the victory in court, not the vindication, not even the justice they'd fought so hard to achieve. This, the quiet moments, the ordinary days, the life they'd built together from the ruins of what could have destroyed them. September arrived with crisp air and leaves just starting to turn. They got married in Emily's backyard, the one they'd fought so hard to save. It was small, like they'd planned. Logan's mother, Emily's dad, a handful of friends. Richard Chen and Patricia Ruiz stood up with them, along with Mia, who took her flower girl duties so seriously she practiced walking down the makeshift aisle for a week beforehand. Logan's hand shook when he put the ring on Emily's finger, but his voice was steady when he said his vows. "I promise to show up, even when it's hard, especially when it's hard. I promise to fight for us the way we fought for this." He gestured at the yard, the house, everything they'd nearly lost. "And I promise to love you and Mia with everything I have, for as long as I have." Emily's vows were shorter, punctuated by tears. "I spent so long trying to do everything alone, prove I didn't need anyone. And then you showed up and taught me that needing someone isn't weakness, it's strength. I promise to be your partner, your teammate. And I promise to never give up on us, no matter what tries to tear us down." When the officiant pronounced them married, Mia cheered so loud everyone laughed. The reception was potluck in the backyard, music from a borrowed speaker, dancing on the grass. It wasn't fancy, it wasn't perfect, it was exactly right. That night, after everyone had gone home and Mia was asleep, Logan and Emily sat on the porch one last time as an engaged couple. "Mrs. Pierce," Logan said, testing out the name. "That's going to take some getting used to." "You don't have to change it." "I want to. Feels right." They watched the stars come out, and Logan thought about how far they'd come. From strangers who shared a property line to this, a family, a life, a future that felt solid for the first time in years. "Do you ever think about what would have happened if you'd sold?" Logan asked. "That first time when the investor made the offer?" Emily was quiet for a moment. "Sometimes I'd probably be somewhere else by now. Different house, different life. But I wouldn't have you, or Mia, or any of this. Regret it? Not even a little. Logan kissed her, slow and sweet, and felt everything settle into place. The fight had cost them both something: time, money, peace of mind, but it had given them something too: each other. And the knowledge that when the world tried to crush them, they'd stood up and pushed back. That was worth everything they'd lost. A year later, Logan stood in the same yard, watching Mia help Emily plant flowers in the new garden bed they'd built together. The drainage system worked perfectly now. The grass had grown back thick and green. The crack in the foundation was long gone, filled and sealed and forgotten. But Logan still remembered it. The thin line that had started everything. Mia looked up, dirt smudged across her nose. "Dad, come help." "What am I helping with?" "Digging, obviously." Logan knelt beside them, taking the trowel Emily handed him, and dug into the earth that had nearly destroyed them and then given them everything. Emily caught his eye and smiled, and Logan felt it again. That bone-deep contentment, that sense of rightness. They'd built this. Not just the garden or the repaired foundation, but the life that surrounded it, the family they'd chosen and fought for and refused to let go. Mia chattered about how big the flowers would get, whether they'd attract butterflies, if they could plant vegetables next year too. "Sure, kiddo," Logan said. "We can plant whatever you want. Even pumpkins?" "Even pumpkins." She beamed and went back to digging with renewed enthusiasm. Emily leaned against Logan's shoulder, watching their daughter work. "We did good," she said quietly. "Yeah, we did." And sitting there in the September sun, surrounded by the family they'd built from determination and stubbornness and love, Logan believed it. They'd started with a crack in a foundation and ended with something unbreakable. Not because they were perfect, not because they'd had all the answers, but because they'd shown up for each other, day after day, even when it would have been easier to walk away. That was the lesson Logan would carry forward, the thing he'd teach Mia when she was old enough to understand. That life would try to break you. Systems would fail. People would let you down. The world would seem rigged against you more often than not. But if you found people worth fighting for, and if you fought with everything you had, sometimes you won. And even when you didn't win, you survived. You adapted. You kept going. Because giving up was easy. Anyone could do that. But choosing to stay, to build, to believe in something bigger than your own fear, that took courage. And courage, Logan had learned, wasn't the absence of fear. It was doing the right thing despite it. He looked at Emily, at Mia, at the garden they were building together in the yard they'd saved. This was his life now, hard-won and imperfect and absolutely worth every fight. And he wouldn't change a single moment of it. Mia held up a worm she'd found, delighted. "Look, he's helping us dig." Emily laughed. "That's great, sweetheart, but maybe put him back so he can keep helping." "Okay." Logan watched his daughter carefully return the worm to the soil, treating it with the same care she showed everything in her world. And he thought about all the things he wanted to teach her, about standing up when it mattered, about fighting for what was right, even when it cost you. About finding people who'd stand beside you and never letting them go. But mostly, he wanted to teach her what Emily had taught him. That home wasn't a place. It was the people you chose and the life you built together. And sometimes, the best things came from the worst circumstances. You just had to be brave enough to stay and see it through. The sun dipped lower, painting the yard in gold. Somewhere in the distance, a neighbor's dog barked. A car drove past. Life continued in all its messy, ordinary glory. And Logan Pierce, sitting in the dirt with his wife and daughter, felt something he'd thought he'd lost forever. Hope. Not the naive kind that believed everything would be perfect, but the hard-earned kind that knew things would be difficult and chose to believe they'd be okay anyway, because they'd proven it already. They'd face the worst and come out the other side. And whatever came next, they'd face it together. That was enough. More than enough. It was everything.